The EU AI Act is way more than just a simple rulebook for artificial intelligence. It's a whole new system, really, one designed to police this incredibly powerful technology. So today, we're going to break down exactly how that system works, from the new AI watchdogs all the way to the huge penalties for stepping out of line. Let's dive in.
I mean, this is the question on everyone's mind, right? AI is weaving its way into everything, from our email to our critical infrastructure. So how do we make sure it's all safe and fair and trustworthy? How on earth do you enforce rules for a technology that is literally learning and changing every single day? Well, that is the massive challenge the EU is trying to solve.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to meet the new watchdogs. Then we'll look at how AI is monitored after it's out in the wild. We'll get into the pretty shocking price of breaking the rules. And finally, we'll unpack why this law from Europe could change the game for the entire world.
First up, let's talk about the AI Act's watchdogs. Now, this isn't a job for just one group. Think of it more like a team effort. The EU has built this multi-layered structure that splits the work between the main EU-level bodies and the individual member countries.
So let's meet the team. At the very top, you've got the European AI Office. Their main job is to keep an eye on the most powerful AI models. They're backed up by two important groups: the European AI Board, which gets all the member states in one room, and a scientific panel of experts for that independent technical brainpower. And then you've got the folks on the ground, the national authorities in each country who handle the day-to-day enforcement.
Let's zero in on that AI office for a second, because it's a huge deal. This is the new central player, and it has the exclusive power to supervise the big general-purpose AI models, the massive foundational models that power so many other tools. It's the central hub, the core of this whole new regulatory machine.
Okay, moving on to monitoring after launch. This is absolutely critical, because with the AI Act, the work doesn't stop when a product hits the market. No way. In fact, that's when the real test begins. This is all about constant vigilance.
And the heart of this is something called the post-market monitoring system. For any high-risk AI, the provider can't just launch it and, walk away. They are legally required to build a feedback loop, basically a system to constantly collect data and check in on how their AI is doing in the real world for its entire life. It's all about catching problems after that AI is out in the wild.
And what kind of problems are we talking about here? Well, the Act is very specific about what it calls a serious incident. And let me tell you, we're not talking about small glitches. We're talking about an AI malfunction that leads to something catastrophic: death, serious harm, a breach of our fundamental rights, or taking down our critical infrastructure. The stakes are just incredibly high.
And when one of those serious incidents does happen, bam, the clock starts ticking, and it ticks fast. A provider has a maximum of 15 days to report it to the authorities once they figure out their AI was involved. This isn't about hiding problems. It's about mandatory, urgent transparency. There's no sweeping it under the rug.
Now, that need for transparency brings us to the part you've probably been waiting for: the price of breaking the rules. And I'll tell you, the EU AI Act isn't just making suggestions. It has some of the biggest regulatory teeth the tech world has ever seen.
So check this out. It's a tiered system based on how badly you mess up. At the absolute top, for using a prohibited AI, the fine is up to 35 million euros or 7% of your company's global turnover, whichever is higher. For a big tech firm, that 7% could be billions, and it steps down from there. But even the lowest tier, just for giving out wrong info, can hit you for up to 7.5 million euros or 1%. These are not small numbers.
I mean, let's just pause on that top number: 35 million euros or 7% of global revenue. So what kind of AI is so bad it deserves a fine that big? Well, we're talking about things like government social scoring, AI that manipulates your behavior in harmful ways, or systems that prey on vulnerable people. The EU is drawing a very clear and very expensive line in the sand.
But you might be thinking, what about the little guys, the startups? Well, the Act does try to strike a balance here. For small and medium-sized businesses, there's a really important rule. They get fined the lower of the two options. This is a huge deal. It means they won't get hit with a crippling percentage that could put them out of business. It's an attempt to enforce the rules without killing innovation.
All right, let's zoom out for our final section: why this matters. Because here's the thing. These rules about who's in charge, how AI is monitored, and these massive fines, this isn't just a European story, not by a long shot. This is about setting a new global standard. There's this thing called the Brussels effect. The idea is pretty simple. Because the EU is such a gigantic market, any company in the world that wants to sell their products there has to follow its rules. And it's just easier for them to make one global product that meets the strictest rules, right? So a law passed in Brussels could end up directly shaping the AI you use, whether you're in Tokyo or Toronto. Europe's rulebook could become the world's rulebook.
And at the absolute heart of all of this is the mission spelled out right there in Article 1 of the law. Everything we've talked about, the AI office, the monitoring, those eye-watering fines, it all serves this one single purpose: to push for AI that is human-centric and trustworthy, while protecting our health, safety, and our fundamental rights. That's the whole point.
So it all leaves us with the big question, doesn't it? With these powerful watchdogs and massive penalties, is this the blueprint for how we regulate AI responsibly all over the world? Or will the high cost and all the rules end up being a brake on the very innovation it's trying to guide? The answer? Well, it's going to shape the future of technology for all of us.